you're anywhere that gets cold and you try growing loofah, you'll know what happens if there's a frost. Your entire vine dies and you'll have these half-ready loofahs. Let me show you how to get them ready so that they're perfect. Come join me in the chaos. These loofahs, all the leaves have died. Why? Because we just had frost. And this is a tropical plant, so it doesn't really like it when there's frost. But if you have sufficiently developed fruit, like once these get a little bit rigid and you have the fibrous loofah that everyone's used to in the middle, then you can use them. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So first off, you're going to want to harvest a bunch of them, and you got to kind of feel them. Like this one right here has substance to it. Like when I squeeze it, it feels kind of hard. But this one right here, it's super squishy. So I've done some experiments with the really squishy ones. After the frost, usually the ones that are super squishy don't really have a developed loofah. Well, this one did. But you can just kind of stick your thumb in there and see what they look like. You see that? You can see what they look like. If they have that fibrous material, you're probably good. But some of them you kind of stick your thumb into and it's just like a rotten cucumber. They'll just be very squishy, and so they don't have that fibrous material. So don't waste your time doing what I'm about to show you how to do unless you see this. And it's really hard to get the peel off unless you do this trick. All right, tons of loofahs. All right, I'm gonna show you how I prepare these loofahs to go in the oven. So I like to cut the ends off. Pretty simple. Cut the ends off so that they fit on your tray. And I've already done a few of them, but I realized I probably want to get this on video. Very simple process. So that's all you gotta do. Put that in the oven. I like to set it for 350 just to cook down this pulpy stuff. If you look right here, very pulpy. You want to get that stuff off. Once it starts breaking down, you'll be able to actually see some of the loofah on the inside. It's also a lot easier to peel once you cook that outside skin off. Once you cook that for about an hour, it'll just pretty much just fall right off, and you just have to dry it out. All right, after an hour and a half, they're nice and shrivel a little. Those skins should come right off of these loofahs. So again, an hour and a half in the oven at 350. And they're perfect and ready to start cooling down. Obviously, you don't want to just grab one of these things when they're 350 degrees. But yeah, let them cool down and they'll be perfect. All right, so this is what the loofahs look like after you take them out of the oven. The skins, in theory, should be soft. Yep. You just kind of slip your finger between the loofah and the skin and they just come right off. They're kind of goopy and disgusting feeling, but they're much easier to take the skins off once they've been cooked, as you can see. Reminds me of Star Wars when they stick Luke inside of that dead animal. But there's the nice juicy loofah. Just have to dry it now. And it's full of cooked seeds, so those seeds aren't viable for growing, but as you can see, you just kind of squeeze the loofah and all the juice and seeds comes out. Pretty easy process. And sometimes they get burned on the ends that are exposed to the oven temperatures, and you just kind of cut those off. But that's the main reason that I make sure they're cooked all the way through before I take the skins off. I made the mistake in one batch to cook them halfway, or not cook them enough basically, and then take the skins off, which came right off, but the inside wasn't cooked, and so the pulpy stuff wouldn't come out when I squeezed it. So I stuck them back in the oven, and I ended up charring the surface of the loofah on the outside, so they just don't look as cool. But on the bright side, they're a lot coarser, so if you wanted them for scouring pads, then you can just, cook the outside to make them more Brillo-y, better for, cleaning pots and pans and stuff. But they just don't look very pretty when you do that, because as you can see, they get all charred. But yeah, you want to squeeze out as much of this juice as you can, just because this juice has a lot of nutrient It's the perfect nutrient for growing mold. And so you want to make sure you squeeze that out, rinse it, squeeze it out. I would do that at least, a few times just to get as much of that out. Because it's like a combination of sugar and protein. And so you squeeze all that out and just leave behind this fibrous loofah, and that won't, grow anything as long as it doesn't have nutrient on it. And your finger just slips right through the edge. Just kind of find a spot and get that nice, beautiful loofah. And they're slightly easier to process if you cut them in half first. But I just think they look a lot cooler when they're long. It's a very interesting smell too. Can't quite tell if I like it or not. It's like a sweet, old pumpkin-y, I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're not sure if it's a good smell or a bad smell. That one's kind of hard to get. Yeah, sometimes they'll get really stuck to the skin and they're a little harder to pull off. I'll do that one later. I still haven't figured that out. I still haven't figured out what causes some to slip super easy. Some to be a little bit more difficult. That's coming off a lot easier. Yeah, I notice the ones that slip really easy have lots of trapped liquid, so maybe they steam internally more intensely, and that detaches the skin perhaps. Yeah, lots of juice. And I suppose you could probably use this stuff for soup or something if you really wanted to. I don't really like the taste of Luffa. I've tried it. Anyway, there you go. Pretty simple process. And that's what they look like. All cleaned off and washed and skinned. And then you can just obviously compost the stuff you don't want to keep.